I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Back to the program. It is Wednesday, otherwise known as Hump Day. So, happy Hump Day. We're almost done with this particular week. I was looking over some headlines for today, and I will tell you the one that jumped out at me the most from a national perspective, from a domestic policy, immigration perspective, was this drug that we've heard so much about, fentanyl, or some people say fentanyl, but I think it's actually pronounced fentanyl. And we've talked about this before, about just how dangerous this drug is, and just how much of it comes across our border, the sheer amount and what that could translate in terms of potential loss of human life of American citizens is something that obviously the mainstream media is going to ignore because they don't want to do anything that legitimizes President Trump's claim that there's a crisis on the border or that it's dangerous or that illegal immigrants can possibly commit crimes. And I mean, you know, it's so insulting if you know of the drugs that are coming over and you know of the industry that it is and you know anything about the cartels and you know they have a history of violence, then you would know that those associated with that we're going to have a more statistically higher probability to commit crimes, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I mean, that's just logical thinking. But, you know, it may be politically incorrect. So Breitbart had this story that the Department of Homeland Security is now warning that extremists could use fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. This got my attention because we've talked about this. I've given you stories of local SWAT teams, area SWAT teams. They go in, they're going to make a drug bust, and they get some of this drug on their skin, or it's I don't know if it can become airborne to an extent, like as a powder substance or whatever. I'm not really sure. I don't even know if I would know what fentanyl was if I saw it. Joe, I mean, would you? I don't know. I saw an article about fentanyl-laced marijuana that's now on the streets and everything else, and so that's very dangerous as well. This stuff is deadly. I mean, you can classify it as a chemical weapon, really, I think. And when you have the SWAT guys that are there to make the bust end up in the hospital because some of this stuff got on their skin and their body absorbed it, I think we need to take this seriously. So the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. The deadly synthetic opioid mainly originates in China and is the top driver of the unprecedented number of fatal drug overdoses in the United States, an internal memo obtained by Task and Purpose revealed this week. Several experts, as well as current and former U.S. officials, including some from DHS, have repeatedly warned that terrorists could potentially weaponize fentanyl, 118 pounds of which is reportedly enough to kill 25 million people. So we've got a couple of, I don't know, would you call it leaks? I'm not really sure if they're leaks, but it's some suggestions, right? The first one is, hey, why don't we take all these illegal immigrants and drop them off in sanctuary cities because the sanctuary cities are saying, hey, we love illegal immigrants, come here. Why don't we give them their wish? Why don't we do it? Okay, so you got that suggestion, and now it's like, well, maybe we should make this fentanyl designated a weapon of mass destruction because it's so dangerous and because it's what it's doing. And also, you got to remember, because it's a big business. Just like I read the other day, you have the human trafficking, the sex trafficking industry at the border, $150 billion a year industry. From one source that I read. But nobody wants to talk about that either. I mean, what is happening to this country? What is happening here? The people, it's incredible. People hate Donald Trump so much personally that they refuse to try to contribute anything productive to try to solve this problem where we literally, we have one side that doesn't want any borders at all, from what I can tell. We also have this news. Attorney General William Barr is now blocking the catch and release scam. He's telling judges, according to him, that you can't do this anymore. Which means that he's going to give them 3 months, but that means they're going to start constructing all of these tent cities because it's you got to do something about it. Maybe Congress will now actually do something. Probably not. Excuse me, I had to get it. That's sip of coffee number 1, believe it or not. So what are the specifics here? All right, well, so if you look at this particular article, Neil Monroe, at this point, and I didn't know the Attorney General even had the authority to do this, but immigration judges cannot release migrants who are caught sneaking into the United States, even if the migrants ask for asylum, says a binding legal decision by Attorney General William Barr. So you guys know what's been going on. If you don't, you've probably been living under a rock. You have these immigration attorneys who are there at the border, and I don't know, are they bleeding heart liberals? Are they globalists? Are they that they know? And then you have the coyotes that will tell the immigrants the exact phrasing that they need to tell the immigration and customs enforcement guy, the ICE guy, where the ICE guy's hands are tied, and it's like, okay, well, now you have said the exact same phrasing. Now we have to consider you for asylum, and that means you get a court date. That means you're released. You never show up for your court date. You then get a job. You take a job from an American, and the coyotes want you to do this because the illegal immigrant, in most cases, is going to have to pay. Hasn't paid the trafficker or the coyote all of what they're owed. So it's like, hey, you give me some money here, I'll get you across the border. Then you're gonna make payments to me for me getting you in the country, and so that's why the illegal immigrant then has the incentive to go and get a job. And basically rinse and repeat. This is just going on over and over and over again. And so we have a situation here where our own laws are being used to destroy the country. And that's what you've got to understand here. And there's nothing, people are going to say, well, that's you can't say that. That's destroy the country. What do you mean? I mean, if you're a true liberal out there, let's say if you're a modern liberal and you actually believe in a social welfare state, we cannot take care of our own people. And you can reference the tweet that Cher made. Oh, and by the way, she's gotten just torn up over on Twitter for saying something. Basically, without knowing it, she confirmed everything Donald Trump had been saying. That's why on Monday we showed you that tweet where Ben Shapiro said, Donald Trump has made Cher a Republican, because she said, don't bring them to the sanctuary cities. We can't take care of our own people. We've got veterans who are homeless. We need to be taking care of them before we take in people from another country. And then it's like everyone freaks out, and it's preposterous, but they're like, oh, Cher the xenophobe. Yeah, everybody's always thought Cher the xenophobe. I do think, though, we're getting to a point faster and faster where older celebrities are that believe that they're liberal or believe that they're a little progressive. It just shows you how far to the left the mainstream left is going, the Ocasio-Cortezes and that sort of thing, because you have these older celebrities that are quickly finding out that the movement is now ready to devour them. And it's just something very interesting to watch. Let's say that. Folks, the telephone number is 870-275-9799. This binding decision by William Barr, quote, the text of the relevant act provides that if an alien in expedited proceedings establishes a credible fear, he shall be detained for further consideration of the application of asylum. I order that unless DHS paroles the respondent under Section 212D5A of the Act, he must be detained until his removal proceedings conclude. This is a huge ruling that will harm, so this is what the liberals say, that this is a huge ruling that will harm thousands seeking protection from persecution at the U.S. border, since far more will be held in detention even after passing the threshold screening under the credible fear standard, complained Greg Chen, Director of Governmental Relations at the American Immigration Lawyers Association. The association's lawyers make their money by guiding migrants and corporate hiring managers. Now listen to this from Neil Monroe. The association's lawyers make their money from guiding migrants and corporate hiring managers through the extremely dense network of migration laws and regulations. But Barr's decision blocks the use of a common path for migrants who are trying to get through the courts and into the U.S. jobs they need to repay the smuggling fees they owe to the cartels. It's exactly what I was just saying. So Barr directed officials to delay implementation of the law for 90 days, giving DHS managers and congressional leaders 3 months to decide which migrants should be released into the nation's cities and towns. All sanctuary cities, by the way. No, I'm just saying, if Trump actually made good on that threat, can you imagine? I mean, it's interesting that you now have these liberals that have set up the sanctuary city policies in the first place. They're now like, whoa. Maybe we weren't so serious about that. Maybe we weren't so serious. Let me tell you something. I mean, we've known for a long time in this country, it's been coming for a long time, that these urban areas and these rural areas, they have different values, different needs, different wants. And this has been slowly happening. You'll say, we're more divided than ever. No, we've been this way for a long time, but the political establishment refused to acknowledge just how Hunger Games-esque this society was becoming. You know, if you know anything about Hunger Games, oh, and by the way, we've talked about this before, the left wants to get rid of the Electoral College. If you got rid of the Electoral College, you would eventually have the Hunger Games political system, not the actual fighting to the death in a simulated, but in terms of you had District 1, which was the best district, District 2, 3, 4. And the further you got out from the centralized government of power, and so basically the you know, for lack of a better word, the crappier your state was. And that's exactly what would happen. It wouldn't be, necessarily in outlying circles, but you would have the major population centers, right, would be great, because or they would get whatever they wanted, but then you have the other people that are forgotten, right? You get rid of the Electoral College like the left wants to do, it would be the last nail in the coffin of United States of America, the concept of sovereign states that temporarily delegate power to the federal government. That concept would be officially dead, because there would be no taking into consideration minority rights. And that's if you've got a liberal friend that wants to get rid of the Electoral College, you got a son or a daughter who's gone off to college and now thinks that the Electoral College is bad. You need to ask them, are they in favor? Just start the conversation like this. Be like, do you support minority rights? Or maybe ask them, oh, so you don't support minority rights, and see what they say, because that's what it's about. It's about minority rights. And we have the left in this country that is all about minority rights, but it only means one thing, right? It means the color of your skin, how you look, right? Just like diversity. We need diversity. We need diversity. Well, diversity means we want people that look differently, but we want them to all think the same thing. So thinking different things, having different thoughts and ideas, that's not diversity in America today. That's offensive. You're bigoted. Honestly, what I'm about to say is, if you really want it is, it's a nonconformist. And at this point, especially with Generation Z, if you'll look into Generation Z, the counterculture right now. Why was that high school student, Sandman? Why was he wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat? You think he agrees with every single thing that Trump says? No. It's with young people, it's now becoming the counterculture. This is something that is extremely underreported. The idea of being able to say whatever you want to say, even if it's offensive, which used to be something the left loved to do. That's why so many stand-up comedians were leftists. Is now, no, you can't do that. It's interesting to watch these millennials get mad at the Generation Zers, these people that are right behind them, for using these apps that and making and actually laughing and having a good time and being a young person. And it's really interesting to see that people are, the counterculture now is to not be politically correct. It's out there. Why do you think Republicans are so good at memeing right now? Or not Republicans, but people on the right. Well, I was talking to Joe about this, we were calling that the people on the right are meme lords. Have you seen the meme? They're so good at it. Have you seen the one where it has Tiger Woods in his DWI photo and it says Obama's Tiger, and then it says Trump's Tiger, and Tiger's, got put in the green jacket on, and he's winning the Masters for the first time in 11 years? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I mean, and then there's some offensive ones. I saw a really offensive one this morning on the Tiger and on the Trump situation. Then there's another meme, and this really drives them nuts. You know how many leftists were furious that the Patriots won the Super Bowl? They were so upset that the Patriots won the Super Bowl because Tom Brady and Donald Trump are friends. Likewise, Tiger Woods and Donald Trump have played golf. And Tom Brady and Tiger Woods won't say a negative thing about Trump. They just say, he's my friend. Drives them nuts. So now there's a meme out there with Tom Brady with the Super Bowl trophy and Tiger Woods and Trump and Tom Brady, Trump and Tiger. And anyway, that meme is pretty funny too. Again, you say what you want, but the anti-PC element of the right that is making all these memes, man, they will trigger liberals in no time. And by the way, CNN is trying to pass off this idea that Donald Trump is scared of Bernie Sanders, and I've heard all these other people say it. Donald Trump's scared of Bernie, and that Fox News' coverage of Bernie Sanders' little town hall or whatever triggered Donald Trump. No, that did not trigger Trump. Trump is obviously wondering why Fox News all of a sudden would be catering to socialism and the ideas of it. We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We have State Representative Dan Sullivan is in studio. Dan, how are you, sir?
Good. Always glad to be here, Paul.
It's always glad to have you, sir. So we do these things every 2 years, the impression of the session. And so what, State Representative Dan Sullivan, what was your impression of the session 2019?
Well, Paul, I was disappointed this year. We had several big issues up, and we'll talk about them here in a few minutes. But, we pass a lot, and we move through a lot of things. But the big issues that come up, and I think you're going to bring them up here in a second, our gas taxes, our highway bill, those kind of issues were the key issues, and all of them moved through rather quickly without much dissent or much opportunity to discuss other options. You know, for example, the highway bill.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat-shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Oh, you know what? Okay, fine. Whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
People are actually saying, they're starting to think, with this whole Bernie Sanders situation, I think the president understood with Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Cortez. I think the president understood in his State of the Union address when he said, America will never be a socialist nation. That the American people don't like socialism. You have Nancy Pelosi now coming out and saying that the Democrat parties were not socialists. And that's because they have polling somewhere, it's a very safe assumption, that looks very, very bad for them. The American people don't want socialism. Somebody, Dennis on Facebook says the reason that Fox News was covering Bernie Sanders was because Rupert Murdoch's daughter-in-laws have taken over the corporation through their husbands. Well, that's an interesting theory. I haven't actually heard that one before. I'll give the telephone number 870-275-9799 if you want to contribute to the conversation. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Mr. John Calvin Martin, and it's always good to have him on from the Patriots of Act 746. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We have State Representative Dan Sullivan is in studio. Dan, how are you, sir?
Good. Always glad to be here, Paul.
It's always glad to have you, sir. So we do these things every 2 years, the impression of the session. And so what, State Representative Dan Sullivan, what was your impression of the session 2019?
Well, Paul, I was disappointed this year. You know, we had several big issues up, and we'll talk about them here in a few minutes. But, you know, we pass a lot, and we move through a lot of things. But the big issues that come up, and I think you're going to bring them up here in a second, you know, our gas taxes, our highway bill, those kind of issues were the key issues. And all of them moved through rather quickly without much dissent or much opportunity to discuss other options. You know, for example, the highway bill is a good one. You know, most people don't know there were 3 or 4 different bills out there that would have funded the highways equally. The governor's bill passed without much dissent. There were a few of us that held out for other bills, but you come out looking like you're against highway funding, when really there were at least three bills out there, 3 good ones out there, that would have funded the highways without a highway tax increase and the accompanying gas tax increase and the accompanying constitutional amendment to increase the tax.
Wow. Yeah, you're exactly right. There were other options out there. And I was just telling you during the break what I was attempting to do here. I took the 3, what I think are the 3 worst bills of the session, and HJR 1018 to continue the levy on the 1/2 cent sales tax. Right. So they didn't want the sales tax to sunset, so they put that on the ballot. Then we have SB 576 to reform the tax laws concerning the levy collection. And this was the internet sales tax.
Of course, that was combined with a tax cut, but actually the tax cut doesn't take effect for 5 to 7 years.
And it's a tax cut only with people with C corporations. So it's very little people.
And, you know, that's kind of what's disappointing in those, is that we combine those two. Makes it hard to vote against an internet sales tax, because you really do want to help our local businesses. I understand the impact this has to our local businesses, but until we stand up against that idea of combining taxes, vote those standing separately, we'll continue to have the same kind of problem.
And then the last bill was the gas tax. Yeah, so I was trying to cross-reference how many of you guys in the House, Republicans, voted no on all 3 of those.
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us on this Wednesday morning, bright and early, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine. What a welcome back to the program. It's been a while. We have Mr. John Calvin Martin back with us. John, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good, my friend. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. Really appreciate you being with us. John is with the organization, the Patriots VAC 746. They're on a mission to educate the citizens of Arkansas about your gun rights, specifically permitless carry. You don't have to have a permission slip in Arkansas to carry a gun open or concealed, meaning no permit. And so check them out on Facebook, facebook.com, search for Patriots VAC 746, and ask to become a part of the online sensation today. John, how you been? I hadn't talked to you in a long time. Because we've been in the legislative sessions, we've had Tim Loggins on for a while now, and we always, of course, we love Tim, but it's great to have you back on during this segment, sir.
Hey, my brother, it's great to be on. Tim does such a fantastic job keeping up with the laws and the legislators and everything through session that it was definitely his time to take the role of the face of Patriots VAC 746. And one thing also I wanted to say, Paul, is that not only am I with POA, but POA is with me. And that's an awesome thing to be able to say as an Arkansas person, a state person here, because we have somebody on our side. And the Patriots VAC 746 is definitely that. It is a comfort to know that when you get in a bind, you have people that are there for you and with you, not for any particular reason other than they love liberty. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty awesome feeling to be able to lay down at night and know you got people that got your back.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the good progress that I do think was made as the legislative session ended, we didn't have anything that undermined Act 746. We did have 2 resolutions from the House and the Senate, one run by State Representative Brand Smith, the other by Senator Scott Flippo, to clarify that Arkansas is a constitutional carry state, according with the judge's ruling, the circuit court judge there in Taft versus the state of Arkansas. That was certainly positive. What did you think about that?
Well, again, that was definitely a positive check in the box that we needed. But the reasoning behind all that is, a couple of years ago we had our Attorney General said, well, it's just muddy, and so we started working, putting things together, talking to people, and got that clarified. It's not muddy anymore, which it really never was. It was more of a manufactured muddy, if I can put it that way. But we got that clarified, and so literally now we're just waiting on people to say, hey, you know what? That's what the law says.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we hadn't got there. The people that need to say that haven't, even though it is law. But I'll be honest with you, Paul, I thought one of my biggest takeaways from the legislative session this year was last year we had over 1,100 bills come through. And this year, which is still a pretty astounding number, but there were only 900. So I think that's a plus.
Certainly is a plus. There's no doubt about that. Then they had that one. I don't know. They did have that one transformation bill that was 2,000 pages. That has to be some sort of record. Although I haven't checked into that. We're talking with John Calvin Martin from the Patriots of Act 746. John, do y'all have any meetings coming up in your neck of the woods? I know on April 22nd the NEA chapter is meeting in Paragould at Iron Horse. You got any meetings on your end?
Paul, we are having an awesome problem. We are having a growing problem in the Patriots of Act 746 across the state. We've got so big, and we thank the Lord for that, but we've gotten so big and so many people invested and incorporated into the Patriots of Act 746 now that we're having to overlap our meetings. There's no way to not hit somebody when you start planning your meeting. Down here in southeast Arkansas, we also have a meeting on April 27th. The same time the Northeast chapter is doing theirs again, because we just can't miss each other because we have so many meetings going on around the state now. We're going to do ours again April 27th.
Yeah, the 27th. I said 22nd. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
April 27th at 2 o'clock in McGee, Arkansas, which is deep delta, southeast Arkansas. And so we're excited about that. We've invited several legislators. The only problem we have, one of the biggest problems we have down here in southeast Arkansas is we're pretty blue. And not that I say that blue is pretty, but we are extremely blue down here. And so it's hard to get legislators to show up to our conservative meetings, but we are trying, and we're working on that. That's something else I want to talk about very quickly, is trying to establish relationships with our legislators. When you, as a preacher, the only time I ever hear from you is when you got a complaint. I don't look forward to seeing you at all. I mean, if all I can ever hear is "oh me" instead of "amen," then I don't really take a lot of what you say into consideration. You're not for the system. You're not for the church. You're just for your own personal thing. And that's where we come across as with legislators also, when all they ever hear from us is griping, complaining, I'll send you a letter, blah, blah, blah. We need to start cultivating those relationships where not that we're going to agree, but that we can have a conversation to be able to talk about things that are hard. Just like in any situation in life, if you've been married very long, you've had hard conversations. But that doesn't mean I'm going to throw my wife to the side and send her a letter of divorcement because we disagree.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And so we've got to start cultivating. And now is the time. We're out of session. things will slow down a little bit for our legislators. I would challenge everybody in the state to not only call, not only write letters, but invite them out for lunch, invite them out for a dinner, a meal. Take them a meal. Again, as a preacher, there's nothing that speaks to me more than somebody who wants to be with me, somebody who wants to have a conversation, somebody who wants to talk and be nice on an everyday basis. And we have to treat our legislators the very same way.
And John, I think a lot of what you're talking about has already happened in a great regard with other legislators, and I think that's why there was such a
absolute.
That they were willing to listen to you guys when it came time, to pass those 2 resolutions, for example.
Absolutely. The difference in this year's legislative session and 2 years ago, 180 degrees, because we are engaging our legislators on an everyday basis, friendly basis.
Well, and it also goes to this: they are coming to the meetings that you're inviting them to, and it's all about the Second Amendment. It's all about the right of personal self-defense, and I think they also see that these are their constituents showing up to these meetings, and when you have that kind of consensus, there's not too many politicians that want to go against that.
No. Right. Well, and, at first, POA's been around for 5.5, almost 6 years now. And at first, people labeled us as a right-wing extremist organization, and that's just not true. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. We're just everyday old Joes trying to do what we need to do here in the state of Arkansas. The last time me and you met was during the week of Chris Ann Hall, and everybody was so busy. We didn't get to visit very much, but I sat in the living room of one of our best friends here in POA. I'm not going to tell you what his name is, but his initials start with Gary Epperson. And he had to run his everyday life, farm, feed the chickens, run the cows, do the things that you have to do. But so people we're just everyday people. We're just average people. Tim Logan's just a great guy. If you get to sit down and talk with him, visit with him, just awesome people. And it's throughout the whole organization that way. And because we're just normal people, we try to live our regular lives and do this on the side.
Yeah, no, you're right. I understand.
And so it's just a really cool organization, and we want to get involved with our legislators. Again, it's not about us against them. It's about all of us trying to do what's right by the Constitution.
Yes.
And so that's what we're encouraging people to do. Hey, don't just if the only time you reach out to your legislator is to gripe and complain, then shut up, stop. You're causing more trouble than we can fix. And that's a little hard, but and I apologize for that. But it's true.
Well,
we need to open up the legislation, the legal conversations where we can talk on a friendly basis and get things done.
We're talking with John Calvin Martin with the Patriots VAC 746. So, John, I wanted to ask you about the NRA. Contrast what your thoughts are on the Patriots VAC 746 and your goals or the organization's goals with maybe the goals of the NRA.
Oh my! Well, unfortunately, and I don't want to bash anybody. We take a stand of neutrality on the NRA, and the reason for that is because we believe in gun rights. We are not in any way, shape, form, or fashion willing to water that down at all. And unfortunately, in the state of Arkansas, and let me put that, I don't know about anywhere else, but in the state of Arkansas, the NRA is, one man said the NRA actually stands for not really Arkansas. But anyway, that's beside the point. But they are willing to water down, just like the bump stock, the enhanced stuff. They're willing to water stuff down to get their agenda across.
Well, it's almost as if it's almost as if the NRA accepts the premise that, well, regulations are going to happen at some point,
right.
so we might as well be the ones to write them.
Right. And that's exactly the premise that they have shown themselves to be here in the state of Arkansas. Again, we're talking about us. We're our dealings with them. But they're willing to give, and unfortunately, we're just not. We're just not. It's a right. It's not a privilege. It's a God-given, inalienable right that we have to protect ourselves, to be able to own weapons, guns, and we're just not willing to bend on that at all. And the NRA, a lot of things that's confusing with them is that they put out this ridiculous rating system. I've never seen anything like that in my whole life, because they will rate people on questions that they answer. That's the way they do it. They send legislators questions. However they answer is how they rate them. And Paul, there could not be anything more false than that rating system. Because I can tell you all day long I'm a pro 2A and not even own one. Not even own a gun, not care anything about rights, but say I'm pro, And that'd get me an A+ rating, or at least an A rating. And not even own a gun or care anything about them really. But I answered the question right. Well, that's not what we're for. We're actually for asking the people themselves, hey, how do you feel about this? What have you done about this? We were talking to a legislator not long ago. In fact, I was talking to a legislator not long ago here in my area, Miss Leanne Birch. I'll tell you who she was, and she has an extensive military background, a brigadier general in the reserves, I believe, and very, very military-minded. And when I started talking to her about POA 746, the first thing she mentioned to me was, well, but you do have opposition from the Moms Demand Action. Now, she got a good rating from NRA because of her military background. But the first thing she went to was the opposite side of what we stand for.
Right.
To me, that is a conundrum. That raises a lot of questions on why the NRA would rate her so highly when it's obvious she's not.
So, well, yeah. So, I mean, a couple of things. There's a couple of options. The least damning would be that the NRA is trying to provide a service. And obviously, the NRA can't go and touch every local state legislator or senator in all 50 states and get to know them. I mean, they don't have the resources. And that brings us to Patriots Fact 746. You guys are in the trenches. You're talking to these legislators, and you really know if one is on your page after, like you said, after talking to them for 5 minutes, you're going to know whether or not they actually believe in the Second Amendment or not.
Absolutely. That's correct. And that's why we have reached out for the last several years to the NRA and tried to get them to get on board with us, but they have their own agenda. And again, when they're willing to water down or bend or even at times break the sacred law of the Second Amendment, then we just can't go with that. We're not for that at all. In fact, we've had meetings with them recently and trying to get them on board, and they just will not. And we've told them we can't have anything to do with them until they truly become solid and solidified in what we believe.
I guess here's my, this will be my question. If Arkansas has essentially gun laws where we have decriminalized them, where we are a constitutional carry state, meaning you can carry open or concealed without a permit here in the state of Arkansas, is that the goal of the NRA in other states? And if not, why not?
Exactly, and that was the very question we asked. You either are 2A or you're not 2A. Where they want to say, well, there's a little gray area there. No, there's not. You either are or you're not.
Yeah.
And if you are, then you have to be 100% sold out. But all, and this is where people think we're extremists. But my personal opinion, and I would never push this over on POA, but my personal opinion is all gun laws are unconstitutional because the United States Constitution, Second Amendment says, shall not be infringed. Well,
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, that's pretty much. But then we go on down to Arkansas, same deal. So we want to take a stand. We have drawn the line in the sand, and we're willing to go to that line and not past it. And that's exactly. And does that mean we're crazy nuts? No. But you know as well as I do, Paul, and we've always been taught, a law that is not protected will be lost. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
What we allow, our children will suffer for. And I'm just not willing to let that happen.
The extremists in this argument are moms demand action. And I just wanted
Absolutely.
to throw that in there. It's the last word.
Oh, my.
John Calvin Martin, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you, my brother. We appreciate you. Have a great day.
All righty, you too. Folks, go to Facebook.com, search for Patriots of Acts 746, and ask to become a member of that Facebook group, and you're going to get great information. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be back here in just a moment.
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
The list comes up with 12 names, and you're one of those names. So first of all, thank you for voting no. I know some of those no votes were hard because they would put good things in them, like you were just saying.
Absolutely, and it's difficult when we don't have an opportunity to debate the other options. Julie Mayberry had a bill that would have taken the taxes out of current highway-related products and put all of those taxes into funding highways. As a matter of fact, it came up several years ago, and it was a good bill that didn't get through. But those are some of the other ideas that are out there to fund our highways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really good stuff. So when it's all said and done, my question has been, are people going to be paying more, less, or the same as the net tax burden? Or is the tax burden going to be increased, lowered, or stay the same?
Well, what do you think? That'll be spun, or there'll be different spin on how that works. There'll be people that...
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back. We have, coming up at the bottom of the next hour, we're going to be talking with Jonathan Williams, the lead economist for ALEC, which is the, Why can't I ever remember what ALEC stands for? Hang on one second. It's very simple. I mean, I've already... the American Legislative Exchange Council. Yeah, American Legislative Exchange Council. Okay, sorry. So he's going to be with us. We're going to be talking to him about the richstatespoorstates.org. There's this study that comes out, that ranks Arkansas. I want to talk to him about, some of his numbers and where Arkansas ranks in that list. And let me tell you something, folks. You know how our board last week was, what's the number? Well, I've got some, I'm looking right now. Right now, I'm looking at the preliminary numbers. And let me just tell you something. It's not good. Net tax increase? Yes, absolutely. Fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 2022. We'll tell you more about that later on, and you certainly don't want to miss it. We can give you what the number is. So it's frustrating. So we have this company in Arkansas that was given a bunch of money by the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. They're called Nanomech, and they're using a piece of technology. They're using like a lubricant that was discovered, I think, in research at the University of Arkansas. It's a Springdale-based company, nanotechnology company. They're filing for bankruptcy. A week after filing documents to settle a nearly $9 million lawsuit alleging the company has not made payments on its loans. Now they file for Chapter 11. Matter of fact, Jeff Della Rosa has this piece over at Talk Business and Politics. If you scroll down to the very bottom of the page, you'll find out a little something about economic incentives, economic development. The Arkansas Economic Development Commissions, when you add up the loans, the grants, and the tax credits, they gave Nanomech $10.88 million. And now they're going to attempt to get that money back, but they're going to file bankruptcy. So we have all this talk about clawback procedures and everything else. And, can you claw back? Can you give them penalties if they're filing bankruptcy? Originally, Mike Preston of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission said this of the company, the nanotechnology company in Springdale, quote, "The specialty lubrications manufactured by Nanomech use macromolecular technology developed at the University of Arkansas to improve functionality and have the potential to radically change the energy industry as well as aerospace, transportation, and automotive. It is our desire to see the company become an industry leader, keeping their dedicated employees and stakeholders in Arkansas while competing in the national and international arena," end quote. That's how it was sold, to give them $10 million. Why not? It's just $10 million. And now they're filing Chapter 11. Is this your version of economic development? Do you think this is economic development? Can we do better than this? Wouldn't it be great if your small business, not that I would be in favor of it, but if you're gonna give corporate welfare to these businesses, why not give it to the small businesses? The ones that are going to stay in the state and not be recruited elsewhere, that sort of thing. This is not what economic development looks like. This is not what economic development looks like. 870-275-9799. We've got one more hour coming your way next. Let's talk a little Arkansas Works when we come back. The Justice Department is challenging the judge's ruling that overturned the work requirements, Asa Hutchinson's signature domestic achievement here, or statewide achievement in Arkansas. Are they really work requirements, or are they works we suggest that you work strongly? Back in a minute.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Take this select group of bills and say, well, my package of bills actually reduces taxes over tax increases. But then when you combine all of the tax increases that we got with the tax cuts that we got, I think we're going to be paying more in the long run. We'll see. But I think certainly the governor's package that he proposed that would come out, I think he mentioned he had 3 or 4 bills there that overall that would be a tax decrease. That may be true. But we also had the cell phone tax. We had a number of other taxes that came up that so when the taxpayer looks at what they pay versus what a platform position was by any particular politician, we're probably going to end up paying more.
I think you're right. As a matter of fact, I've looked at the preliminary numbers that we've been calculating here at Conduit News, and especially if you look in the first fiscal year, second fiscal year, it looks like it's. I don't even know how you could argue it any other way. When you combine everything that's being done, I think the people are going to be paying more money, and that's the unfortunate thing, because we already pay so much. We pay a lot in taxes, Dan. You know this. Yeah,
and Paul, the important thing, or one important thing to me, is that we have an opportunity to debate the options in front of the people. As you know, and I imagine most of your listeners know, most of these issues, the deal is cut before it comes before the committee, that most of the people know how they're going to vote. The discussion is behind the scenes, happening sometimes months ahead of when the bills actually run. And the opportunity to debate all the options, again, like the highway bill, the opportunity to debate that is not there unless you kill the bill that's on the floor. Or cause them to rewrite it. In order to do that, you have to have 24, 25, maybe 51 votes to do that. And it's very hard in the House to come up with enough votes of the same mind to be able to have other bills brought up and other bills discussed. Of course, the Senate is where the real power is. It doesn't take long down there. This is my 3rd term. I'm very thankful to be a member of the House of Representatives and to represent the District 53 where I am. But the real power there is in the Senate. You have to have 5 or 6 senators can really change the dynamic and change what the debate is. So, maybe one day we'll be back in here talking about opportunities in the Senate.
Yeah, well, I've obviously heard the rumors, and I saw the Michael Wickline tweet. So, let's stick to the impression of the session for now.
Sure.
We've got a lot more interviews, I'm sure, to come. Arkansas work requirement in the middle of this session. State Representative Dan Sullivan struck down by a federal judge. And what were your thoughts on that?
Well, again, we had another bill. Josh Miller had a bill out there for us to discuss, and what those options were and opportunities were. That didn't happen. We didn't have an opportunity to discuss those. I'll be working on some information in the interim here. I just wonder, I'd like to see, and I'll be working with the Bureau of Legislative Research, what were our original projections in 2013 when this started? What were the enrollment projections? What were the cost projections? What were the other issues that came up that cost the state money that are not in those projections? The administrative cost. We had, I think, a $200,000 cost in software and computer programs. We had in 2018, we had people who were living in, or 2017, we had people living in other states that I think about 12 to 15,000 people that we paid $600 a month for who lived in other states, didn't even live in Arkansas. So we had associated losses with that. And I'm going to pull together, and I'll come on the show when we have that, but in 2013 to 2023, so our past, our present, and our projections going forward. But we don't have an opportunity to bring that out publicly there on the floor and let the people see what that debate is. But Josh Miller's bill would have taken us to a new position and a way to at least examine what the savings might be if we went back to a fee-for-service type model.
Yeah, that was, and we interviewed Josh on that. It was a shame that we had Democrats who, were voting to keep the corporate welfare side of things, which is what we've got right now, giving Blue Cross
Right.
Blue Shield all that money. And at this point, it's less expensive, it looks like, to go and actually just fee for service.
Yeah, exactly.
You
And let's
know?
just see the numbers.
Mhm.
You know, it's much like if you're
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
John Woods, Mike O'Neill, Jake Files, Hank Wilkins, Russell Cranford, Eddie Cooper, Tom Goss, Montia Goss, Jay Hutchinson. Welcome back to the program. Hour number 2. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are in the process of constructing and building a Liberty machine. We were just telling you about this nano mech company out of Springdale that took $10.88 million from the Arkansas taxpayer only to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And this is what the overlords tell us is economic development. This is part of their plan. Isn't that fantastic? Absolutely fantastic. You know what? At some point, I think, there was all this talk. Remember this? All this talk about the internet sales tax and the corporate tax reform, right? Which is going to happen at some point in the future. The internet sales tax is going to start collecting in July. Get used to it. Or don't get used to it. Matter of fact, go buy something on Amazon from a third-party seller, and you're going to see no sales tax collected. You won't see that after June 30th. And that's, is what it is. The government wants more money from you. But anyway, they had in there the corporate tax reform. I want you to know something. We should have eliminated the corporate tax entirely if you really want to get bold. But in order to do that, you'd have to stop giving companies that file Chapter 11 bankruptcy after they get $10.8 million. You got to stop giving them $10.8 million. Matter of fact, if you take what we try to spend with the Arkansas, if you would just eliminate the Arkansas Economic Development Commission and then give all corporations the massive tax cut by eliminating the corporate tax in Arkansas. You talk about putting up a sign in Arkansas that says open for business. It would be a big deal. The telephone number, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Did you see what just happened, Joe? That was crazy. That scared me. We had a camera fall. And then I flinched and reacted. So the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette this morning reports that the U.S. government is arguing that the coverage losses of people who lost their Obamacare Medicaid expansion Arkansas Works policies here in Arkansas were due in large part to the fact that participants could report compliance through an online portal only, federal officials said in a court filing. So essentially the Arkansas work requirements were struck, and the the United States government is now challenging that ruling, and they submitted that to the court. They're saying, though, that the issue was addressed, that particular issue of that they can only do it online. And that's one of the reasons I think the judge had a problem with it. They're saying that it was addressed when they expanded the reporting options to allow reporting over the phone and in person. Now, when we say reporting, what are we talking about? Okay, well, if you fall under the criteria where you have Arkansas Works, which is a Blue Cross Blue Shield taxpayer-funded policy to the tune of $600 a month per person, regardless of whether you go to the doctor or not, and you fall into that criteria, you have to show that you are working or that you're attempting to work, right? Now, there are exemptions. If you live in a home with a dependent child age 17 or younger, if you receive unemployment benefits, if you're pregnant, if you're a full-time student, if you care for an incapacitated person or a dependent child under 6, if you're over 50 years old, this doesn't apply to you. But then you have a few work options, okay? You can volunteer, you can look for a job up to 40 hours a month, you can participate in a job search training to keep your coverage, you can participate in activities and programs through the Arkansas Department of Workforce Services to keep your coverage, you can take a class on health insurance using the health system or healthy living up to 20 hours every year to keep your coverage, you can participate in on-the-job training to keep your coverage, you can participate in vocational training, you can enroll in an educational program, or you can actually get a job and work to keep your coverage. Oh, man. When you actually do a little critical thinking here, it actually is outrageous that the judge threw this out. I actually haven't commented on that at all because, number one, because I don't think we can afford Arkansas Works Obamacare with his work requirements because of what they are. Or without, really. But true Medicaid expansion would be cheaper at this point. But when you actually go through the list and you read what this is. Now, and this is actually from an older Conduit for Action article that was written back in 2017 when the initial proposals were coming out. We were actually figuring out what this was actually going to look like. You got to keep in mind, at one point, if you worked 40 hours a week at minimum wage, at the old minimum wage, you'd make too much money to even be on the program and get free health insurance. So honestly, if you had a true work requirement where you required people to work 40 hours a week, then they'd make too much money, they wouldn't even qualify. So it's a really weird sell when you even look at it from that perspective. So the government, though, is saying, look, people can report on phone. So you have to go to a website to report any of those exemptions or report what it is you've done to keep your health insurance. This drives Democrats crazy because not everybody has an internet connection. And, of course, that's, I think, one of the reasons why the judge did what he did. Now, these, of course, are U.S. Department of Justice attorneys, and they're representing the Department of Health and Human Services. They're saying that everything should be fine because you can now report by phone. Now, keep in mind this Medicaid ruling, this work requirement ruling that struck down the work requirements, it applies to Kentucky also, not just Arkansas. So, enrollees who failed to report for 3 months during the year were kicked off the program. They were barred from re-enrolling for the rest of the year. Last year, according to the Gazette, 18,164 Arkansas enrollees lost coverage for noncompliance. The March 27th ruling in the state case by U.S. District Judge James Boasberg of D.C. who, by the way, looks just like Greg Letting, prevented thousands more enrollees from losing coverage this month after they failed to report for the first 3 months of the year. So you have the other attorney on the other side of this, the ones who don't like work requirements at all, the concept of them. Legal Aid of Arkansas said that the submission or the argument from the U.S. government attorneys, quote, are factually and demonstrably false, and says that Arkansas added an option for enrollees to report in person on their compliance with the requirement, that is false. Enrollees could access the website at the Department of Human Services office, but they didn't receive any help creating an account on the site or reporting their hours or exemption status. So basically, the attorneys are saying, the anti-work requirement attorneys are saying, that, yeah, you could go to the DHS office and they would show you where the kiosk was, but they wouldn't turn the computer on for you. They wouldn't tell you where the website is. They didn't actually help you do it. So, not only apparently we can't require welfare recipients to work, we also can't require them to log on to a computer. That's too strenuous. It's too much of a strenuous activity. But it's the truly needy. No, it's not. not the truly needy, young, able-to-work adults who are under 50, who have no dependents. Pretty sure you can find a way to use a computer. Pretty sure that the people who are under 50 are pretty good at cell phones too, by the way. And if we want to talk about, well, they're lower income, they're the quote working poor that really don't work. Well, the good news is you had President Obama giving away not only Medicaid but phones and data plans, things like that. So, I mean, it should be fine to be able to log on and do whatever you need to do if you want to keep your coverage. Of course, the fact that we have the work requirements that are no longer in place, the portal's been shut down, it essentially means now that if you're Blue Cross Blue Shield, you got to be going over a list and soliciting business at this point. I mean, you could spend $1 million easy or whatever. Spend whatever you want to get. Get people on the phone, all those people that got kicked off and more, and sign them back up. There's no more work requirement, at least not until the judge in a higher court overrules what the other judge did. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, this program had 330,000 people on it at one point. It was never supposed to have more than 215,000. That was the initial estimate. Telephone number 870-275-9799. You can call or text if you want to be on the program. And we're also broadcasting over at facebook.com/Conduit News, as well as the YouTube channel. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, we will be talking with the lead economist from ALEC, Jonathan Williams. You can find out more, richstatespoorstates.org/allstates. So we're excited to talk to him here in a few minutes. Now, speaking of Greg Leding. Okay, Greg Leding, Democrat from Fayetteville, Democrat senator from Fayetteville. I found a tweet of his that was fascinating to me. As I was going through the Arkansas legislature feed on Twitter, I guess last week, I saw it. Did anybody else see this? Where I retweeted this. Yeah, here it is. I retweeted a tweet of Greg Leding's. It was part of a thread where they were kind of going over what all had happened on the, during the legislative session, right? So he was asked, I think, a question, and I think that this had to do with the sanctuary cities as well as the DACA nurses and licensing and allowing DACA nurses in Arkansas to be licensed. And Greg Leding said this: "That's a tough call. On the one hand, I know we stopped a number of bad bills." He's a Democrat talking, and passed a number of good ones, including a couple of surprises like HB 1684. On the other, I know I look at the session as a whole as a white male who holds office. That just triggered Joe in the other room. Let me read that tweet for you again. Matter of fact, Joe, let me throw this up on the OneNote here, because I want you to I want you to look at it. Don't make me look at it. Hang on a second. I want our audience to be able to look at it. Okay, you have it now. I'm just gonna wait here. Here we go. Here we go. Put it up on the screen. Put it up here for our Facebook audience. Here it is. Greg Leding. That's a tough call. On the one hand, I know we stopped a number of bad bills and passed a number of good ones, including a couple of surprises. On the other hand, I know I look at the session as a whole as a white male who holds office. Might as well say, but I'm not really that important because I'm white and I'm a man. And so, man, I'm telling you, Greg Leding is woke, isn't he? What a woke senator. On the one hand, I'm a white male, so I'm just not. What? I mean, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Since when does? I'm sorry, anybody. It's such an apologetic tone. Anyway, I retweeted it and just commented, interesting caveat. What an interesting caveat. I mean, to throw that, I didn't see that coming at all. I was reading the tweet, a tough call. Okay, Democrats saying that they stopped some bad bills, which would probably be good bills for me. Passed number of good ones. Okay, well, the ones that they think are good are probably bad, including a couple surprises like HB 1684. On the other hand, I know I look at the session as a whole as a white male who holds office. What? What does that even mean? Am I missing it, Joe? Am I missing something?
No, I want to say what I'm going to.
So I don't know. I don't know why you would add that. It's very strange.
From my perspective, reading this, it says on the other. I know I look at the session as a whole and as a white male who holds office. So, my question to Greg is, are you saying if you're not a white male, you can't look at the session as a whole? You can only see it in part?
I don't think that's what he was saying, but
it can imply that.
Yeah, it certainly could. It certainly could. I mean, I just thought it was so odd. I mean, listen, I know he's from Fayetteville. All right, he's from Fayetteville, and he's a Democrat. Right? I get that. Now, maybe now this might be part. Remember what he did to Don Clements, his Republican opponent, right? Do you remember that? It made the Daily Wire when he's a tall guy. Oh, yeah. And he used his stature to kind of physically intimidate her, and it looked really bad. So maybe he's just now, as an elected senator, he's constantly on an apology tour. He's like, well, I think that an earned income tax credit is a really good idea, but I'm a white male, and I just want you to keep in mind that might affect me. I'm a white male who holds office. So maybe my opinion's not that legitimate. But I do believe in Medicaid or Medicare for all. But of course, I am a white male who holds office, so don't really take my opinion very seriously. That's my caveat. I just want to say I'm a white male who holds office. I know I'm a white male who holds office, okay? I know it. So I want you to understand that I am very sensitive to the evolving morality of the left that changes from one week to the next. Is that part of the tweet not imply that if you're not a white male, you can't look at the session as a whole? I don't know. Maybe, Joe. Read it again with that. Okay, all right. So Joe wants me to reread this tweet with the idea... No. With the idea that if you're not a white male, you can't look at the session as a whole? Because that last sentence... Okay. So, all right, so that's a tough call. On the one hand, I know we stopped a number of bad bills, passed a number of good bills, including a couple of surprises like HB 1684. On the other, I know I look at the session as a whole and as a white male who holds office. You know what? For some reason, I'm sure there's some lefty out there that could make that case. For some reason, that's what I'm thinking of. Oh man, folks, we got to take a break. 870-275-9799. Interesting caveat, right? Anyway, stay woke, my friends. Stay woke.
The CEO of a company, and your company has a loss. A revenue stream coming, you want to see your business plan. Just show me what our business has done with the revenue stream. What were our projections? What was reality? What is it currently? And what do we look like in the future? And I think the public needs to see that. I came real close to calling for a committee of the whole, which would have been up for the legislature to come back in the interim and just look at those numbers. But we just didn't have the energy at the end of the session to pull that off. And I'll jump to a different subject here. I don't want to forget it. I think a big change that you're going to see, we changed the House rules. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
It was the last day, and I was really encouraged by that. I was disappointed, as were a lot of others, in the committee selection process, and I voted for it. It was a bad vote on my part. I wish I hadn't done that.
You mean 2 years ago?
2 years ago, right. I think Speaker Shepard did a good job. He was fair. He was
nights wondering if progress will ever come, lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate, asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure the life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
PHP Parody.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Senator Greg Leding, expressing some pent-up white male guilt. He's got some white male guilt. I'm going to make sure. John on Facebook, what did he summarized it? Hang on. John wrote, I'm a white male, so you can't really trust my opinion of the session. That's exactly right. That's very concise. We've got a great audience. They're very smart. I'm a white male. I mean, this is my opinion of the session, but I'm a white male, so I mean, might as well be like you might as well say this. It's self-deprecating, you know. It'd be like, you know, you see the guy that's like, you know, constantly apologizing or constantly this or being like, well, you know, I'm stupid, but this is my opinion. Or, you know, I think an earned income tax credit is good, but I mean, what do I know? I didn't get a very high ACT score. You know what I mean? Like, it's just self-deprecating. Why do that? I thought the session was good. We had some good, we had some bad, we had some ugly, but I'm a white male. You can't really believe me. So are we to say that if Greg Leding was a woman, his opinion is more valid on what happened in the session? Or if Greg Leding was black, his opinion of what happened in the session is more valid? So here's the thing. Why is the left, why are they, this is just an example. If this is happening to a local state senator, and this is his language, in Arkansas, the Democrat Party is just gone. I mean, they are rising to a level of irrelevancy that you know, it's very popular to say, well, the Democrat Party is over. Or the Democrat Party, you know, they say this, well, the Republican Party is over. The Republican Party will never win another election. The Republican Party is divided with Tea Party versus establishment, blah, blah, blah. You know, they're saying that now. It's very popular. You always say whenever, you know, when Obama won, will the Republicans ever win again? When Trump wins, or the Democrat Party ever going to win again? I think this time, though, you might actually can make a strong case, at least as far as the pendulum goes. They're going full socialist. You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's now the de facto leader of the party, and you have, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. John Boehner was not scared of the Tea Party at all. Like, John Boehner had no problem being like, yeah, okay, great. You got elected on a limited government, low-tax platform. I don't care. We're going to continue to do things my way. You're not seeing that from Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is terrified of AOC and the others, AOC and the gals. She's terrified of them. And it's because they've created, they've created this monster that you know, just culturally, they've created this political system where, you know, you have to have safe spaces, and then you need a participation trophy after you get out of the safe space. I did it. I mean, and you have all these people, and they're challenging the very institutions of this country, and they want to tear them down. I mean, I saw over in California, there was a police vehicle that had a new a new police logo with an American flag on it, and the city said, well, this is offensive to us. And I thought to myself, that's why you don't change the star on the Arkansas flag, because they don't even like the American flag on police vehicles in California.
Equitable in how he distributed people and letting people have their choice. But our new rules selection process will let members of the House pick their committees based on their seniority,
yes,
which I think is a much fairer way to do that. You know, the people of my district have certain areas that are important to them. You know, we have a large farming community, of course, in my district. They want me to be on Agri. Others want them to be on, city, county, local, where their local events are. So I think it's really an important change that we came about. So my impression of the session, if there are good things that came about, one good thing I'm really pleased with is the new rules we set in place to set committees going forward.
Yeah, I was there for that debate, and I think it's good. I think the only real power that the speaker maintains is if the Democrats, or let's say if the minority party somehow gets to stack a committee and they get a majority, the speaker can step in and remove as many as 2 and put them somewhere else to where the Republicans would, or the majority party would, in this case Republicans, would still control that committee.
Right, and that's an important part.
I agree.
And coming in the future, you may see more closer ratios. Right now, I think it's 74-26. You may see a 49-51 ratio at some point. So, it's important that the party in power maintain control of as many committees as possible. But also the way the committee process works, when we started this session out, 2 big issues that are not on your list there was school choice and some of these scope of practice issues. I was very disappointed, and we didn't get hardly any of the scope of practice issues out for the medical community. Our medical lobby is one of the most powerful lobbies in the state, and we hardly got any of those scope of practice bills out of public health. But with the makeup of the committee, there was just about no way that was going to come out.
There was
no way. And the same thing with school choice. The people that were on the education committee had already demonstrated that they were not going to vote for school choice.
Yeah.
So I think when the committee started, we had maybe 7 or 8 people that had voted for school choice on that committee. And of course, when the vote came up for school choice in committee,
only 7 yes
votes. It turned out with 7 yes.
You had an interesting moment where there was we made the YouTube video of it. Education bureaucrat at the end of the table. I think he's the head of the school board association, or superintendents or something. And you got him to admit that he believes the government is a better arbiter than the family when it comes to making choices for them.
Well, he doesn't believe that, but that's what he said.
That's what he said. And he didn't want to, he was like, I don't want to answer your question in that way. Well, that's how I'm asking the question, you said. It was really, really good moment, I thought.
Yeah, Paul, I want to read something real quickly.
With Paul Harrell.
Joe is in the other room talking about a opinion relevancy scale in light of Greg Leding saying his opinion doesn't matter as much because he's a white male who holds public office. All right, hey folks, welcome back to the program. We're kind of in the home stretch here, folks. The group is ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and right now on the line we have the lead economist, Jonathan Williams, is with us. Jonathan, thanks so much for coming on with us this morning.
Well, thank you, and greetings from the land of make-believe here in Washington, D.C., as always.
Greetings. The land of make-believe, it certainly is. Jonathan, I want to have you on this website, richstatespoorstates.org. Tell us about it.
So this is a project now that we've been developing for the last 12 years, and this is the 12th edition of the report. I co-author it with Ronald Reagan's economic advisor, Arthur Laffer, and President Trump's recent selection to be on the Federal Reserve Board, Stephen Moore. So we put together this report to give lawmakers in the 50 state capitals and concerned citizens all across this nation a way to measure their states in terms of economic competitiveness. And taxes are a big thing that we measure in the report, so it's very appropriate. We're talking on tax week here, but also regulations, labor policies, things that we know matter for economic growth of state to state. And also, I think importantly to mention, is all the things that we measure in our report, contrary to some of the other ways that different groups rank states, our measures are directly controlled by state lawmakers in Little Rock and other state capitals across the country.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. So, what are some of in your rankings? I'm sure you go through like a 1 through 50. And so what are some of the variables that get you, to number 1, for example?
Sure. So there's 15 different equally weighted measures. And the fun thing about going to richstatespoorstates.org is you can actually go see all of them for Arkansas and every state across the country. And you can also go back all 12 editions to see of the 15 factors where you've gained and where you've lost. But we look at things such as tax rates, tax burdens, both income tax, sales tax, property tax, all the ways that government, both state and local, will try to go after your hard-earned dollars as taxpayers. But then we also look at things like what has the state done recently? Has it raised taxes recently? Has it lowered taxes recently? We look at things like state debt. We look at some non-tax variables and non-budget variables even, and such as the size of the government workforce is really kind of a proxy for how big government is in a state and how many employees do they have on staff for state and local governments. And then we look at some things like minimum wage laws, right-to-work status of the state, and then things like does the state have something in law like Arkansas does, a supermajority requirement for tax increases or some way to stop the ever-increasing growth of government spending.
It's funny you mentioned that, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. So recently in Arkansas, they passed a tax. Well, they've raised our gas taxes. Okay, it's part of a $300+ million highway funding program, and we already have a gas tax, Jonathan, at the pump. And they didn't get the 3/4 requirement to raise it. So instead, they created a new wholesale tax on the same product that's already taxed to get around the 75% threshold. And now, of course, it does translate to the consumer 3 cents and to 6 cents if you're paying diesel. But it's funny that you mentioned that. It is a very strong constitutional provision, and I think it should mean something. But here, unfortunately, recently we saw. I think they got around it. Now it's up for debate, but we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I'm a big believer in putting things into state laws, state constitutions to protect taxpayers, to raise the threshold as high as possible in order to raise taxes, to make sure if there's really a need for more tax revenue, which I would argue in almost every case across the country, there's more ways to find waste and fraud and inefficiencies in government before going back to taxpayers and asking for more. I think that there ought to be a pretty broad consensus and a bipartisan consensus to raise people's taxes even further. And so I think, I've been a big skeptic of efforts to try to get around these type of supermajority requirements. In fact, that was brought to my attention. We had it on our radar watching that unfortunate gas tax debate play out, where I think, obviously you've got to have a discussion on road funding, but separately, you've got to look about honoring things that have been promised in the state constitution, such as protecting taxpayers through that kind of a threshold.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Jonathan. So, Arkansas specifically, where did we come down in your findings?
So good and bad news here is Arkansas came down at 23rd for economic outlook when you put together all those 15 equally weighted variables, many of those that we were just talking about. And there's obviously some reasons of those 15 that I think drove that ranking to 23rd. But let me take a historic look at this for just a second. And if you go back to 2012, Arkansas ranked number 11, almost cracked into the top 10 of our economic outlook rankings. And so Arkansas has seen a pretty significant slide and loss of economic competitiveness since 2012, where Arkansas ranked 11, falling all of those spots down to 23rd this year. Now, I should add one caveat there, and that is our rankings are based as of data as of January 1st. So nothing that's happened in this legislative session has affected Arkansas's score here. So whether that's the gas tax increase or whether that's some of the income tax rate reductions that I think were positive, neither one of those things were considered yet.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If Arkansas has taken a slide since 2012, is that you think that's because there are other states that are maybe, moving forward, like maybe making changes in the positive faster than we are, or is it the stuff that we've actually done? I mean, is there any way to even know that?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that certainly when you look at new net tax increases, that would be a damaging effect. But on the other hand, you hit the nail on the head. When you look at these relative indices like ours, in rich states, poor states, you take a look at, sometimes states fall behind just by standing still. And you are not only in a competitive nation where more than 30 states have significantly reduced their tax burdens over the last 5 years alone. The new Trump tax reform and what that's meant for states being able to cut their rates, having these surplus dollars sitting around, that's been a big phenomenon that we've seen. But, on the other hand, sometimes, bad moves do move states in the wrong direction pretty quickly. And I think it's important to keep in mind, Arkansas is in an incredibly competitive region when it comes to states, bordering states such as Tennessee with no personal income tax, and a state that has moved the ball in the right direction in the top 10 in economic outlook. The Wall Street Journal just editorialized about Tennessee, citing rich states, poor states this morning. And, of course, Texas, two of the most competitive states, not only in the region but in America, are sitting just outside of Arkansas. So I think that's an important point to remember for lawmakers as well.
Really appreciate this report. Really appreciate this conversation. We're talking with the lead economist of ALEC, Jonathan Williams. Jonathan, can you tell me, I see here in the report, I'm looking at two numbers. I've got the economic outlook for Arkansas at 23rd. The economic performance ranking is, though, at 30th. What are the difference between those two terms?
Well, good question. And every year we do both of those rankings for the states. I think the more instructive ranking is the outlook ranking, which is our forecast based on the current 15 criteria that we measure in public policy, where we think that state is headed. The performance rank is also, I think, very important, although it's kind of more of a historical look at where the state has been over the past decade. So we just take the last 10 years' worth of data on things like GDP growth in the state. We look at employment, job creation of the state. And then one that's very interesting that I don't know if it gets enough attention is just how much Americans are voting with their feet, as we like to say, or voting with their pocketbooks and moving from state to state. So we look at net domestic migration across states. And this takes out international immigration, this takes out birth rates or death rates, and what it focuses on is, we as economists would say, a revealed preference. Where are people wanting to go? Where are these economic opportunities? And it turns out that when we look at it on a 50-state basis, people are voting with their feet very strongly towards states that value a free market, low-tax environment, and many states that avoid personal income taxes, like Tennessee and Texas and Florida, are the largest winners nationally.
Wow. So overall, who's the number one state on this list?
This is an incredible story in itself. Utah has been number one for all 12 editions of Rich States, Poor States.
Wow.
And let me give you a quick recap of why I think that's the case. Is they have created a flat tax in Utah under Governor John Huntsman, and they got their rates down below 5% now on business and personal, so significantly lower than Arkansas's combined rates on both business and personal. They've also done a couple of very innovative things on stopping property tax increases through the assessment process, which often happens, where local governments will say, we just cut your property tax rate, but you realize your bill is actually higher than it was last year. What happened is they raised your assessment, but they are not responsible. They don't take votes a lot of times that are recorded on those type of things. Utah makes local governments take votes on property taxes. And then finally, I think this is the big one, and this is the existential financial crisis, I think, facing state and local governments across the country, and that is these massive unfunded public pension liabilities in these remaining defined benefit plans for government workers. where the private sector decades ago went to the 401k model in defined contribution, Utah has been one of the leading states at the cutting edge of transitioning public employees as new hires come in and giving them that option and getting more employees into the 401k model, which is sustainable for taxpayers and, by the way, better for government workers, these millennials coming into the workforce that want to take their assets with them as they go from job to job.
Wow. That is certainly a long list of accomplishments from Utah. And I'm just looking here, like you said, top marginal personal income tax rate 4.9, top marginal corporate 4.9. And looking at the sales tax burden, let me ask you this. That's a consumption taxes. I mean, if I'm going to pay a tax personally, I would rather it be a consumption tax. But sometimes these sales taxes, they just get pretty burdensome when you start to combine the local and state. Your local sales tax, your state sales tax, and you're now at 10% or 11%, or maybe more. At some point, I kind of think to myself, well, is there a line? Is there a line where we're going to say that this is too much of a sales tax on the people every time they buy something?
Well, it certainly is something to be concerned with, and this is why I think it's so important to always, when we're talking about taxes, keep in mind that's only one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is government spending. And if we don't keep government spending down, regardless of the type of tax that you choose, even though consumption taxes are less damaging than capital-based or income taxes at large, when you get those rates too high, like we see in a lot of cases, and you know this well, Arkansas' sales tax burden is one of the very highest in America. That's a real burden on taxpayers, and that is just something where we have to control government growth, I think, to keep whatever tax we choose, keep it in a competitive range. And I think that's really the secret of the 9 states that go without personal income taxes, because you would think that they would have extremely high sales taxes across the board, and some of them do, but on average, those states without income taxes spend about $1,000 less per person than the states with income taxes. So the secret, I think, to their success is they keep more of a limited government framework. New York and Florida, 2 perfect examples to discuss here. They're roughly the exact same size in population, yet Florida spends half as much in its annual budget than New York spends. That's the secret for why Florida can afford to go without a personal income tax and why New York is stuck with the highest income taxes in America.
Wow. Yeah, and I see here, you referenced Arkansas sales tax burden in your report, 47th in terms of sales tax burden in the state of Arkansas. So, yeah, it certainly is high. Folks, we're talking with Jonathan Williams. He is the lead economist for ALEC, and, of course, that stands for the American Legislative Exchange Council. Now, Jonathan, I want to ask you real quick. You mentioned at the beginning of this interview about your friend Stephen Moore. Are you excited about him going through this process? I mean, I'm excited about him being appointed on the Fed.
Well, I think it's an incredibly exciting breath of fresh air that President Trump realized was needed on the Federal Reserve Board, which has become somewhat of a insider's club, unfortunately. And you see, just based on the liberal media reaction and some of those that feel threatened perhaps by new and fresh ideas coming in to threaten conventional wisdom on the Fed, these attacks that you've seen, unfortunately, against Steve since the selection was made. But I think that this selection is exactly the right time. Steve is an amazing free market economist who not only understands the national level, but understands how important the national economy is to the states and to the taxpayers across this country. And I'm very proud to have been a co-author with him over the last decade. And I look forward to with him serving America well on the Federal Reserve Board.
I do too. I think the rest of the country. I mean, I think this was a great move by the president because I've always followed Stephen Moore, and when I heard that news, I was like, wow. He really is, I think, surrounding himself with some of the best people at this point. Jonathan Williams, it's been a pleasure, sir. I really appreciate your work. Thank you for your research in this. It's a valuable public service to let us know where we stand, and I hope you have a fantastic day, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Look forward to being back at some point and talking about Arkansas again.
Absolutely. It's richstatespoorstates.org. Go there now, and you can really have some very interesting comparisons. Really appreciate it, Jonathan.
All right, take care.
All right, you too, folks. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back here in just a moment.
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Here, if I might, this happens all the time. This is a quote by Jefferson. Jefferson says, and I quote, "I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power." One of the things I'm disappointed in, especially I was on the education committee, we tend to take power away from local school boards. And we will have people come and they'll say, well, we're having local trouble with this and we're having local trouble with that. So we come down here, we want you to correct it at a state level. And I try to continually ask that question. Why are you not going to your local school board with this? Why? Well, they won't do it. Well, if they won't do it, the corrective is not to come to the state.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
So, you guys know who Josh Mahoney is? He's not the guy. That's not the character from Police Academy, is it? Mahoney. Josh Mahoney is a former candidate. He challenged Steve Womack, Congressman Womack, and was just absolutely trounced in the last election cycle. What was the actual breakdown? Yeah, he 64.7 to 32.6. I don't know who this guy is, but he was the Democrat challenger to Steve Womack. Well, Talk Business and Politics is now saying they're confirming that Josh Mahoney is considering a run to challenge Senator Tom Cotton in the 2020 race. Quote, "I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I can confirm that I am interested in the race. I'll have more to say about that in early next month, but I see a real need for someone to get in this fight and stand up for real Arkansans." So apparently he's had a lot of meetings with, national Democrat organizations about challenging Tom Cotton for 2020. I'm pretty sure Tom Cotton's going to win handily, but that's kind of the news. Interestingly enough, he criticizes Tom Cotton because of his IRS. Tom Cotton, thankfully, wants a IRS investigation into the Southern Poverty Law Center. And apparently this guy Mahoney, I don't even know who this guy is. He's an El Dorado native. I've never heard of him. I mean, I sorry. I mean, I don't think anybody expects him to beat Steve Wallman. Why would the Democrats even? I know the Democrats, they just feel like why would you even field candidates against these Republicans at this point? It's just getting ridiculous. It really is. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. I mean, is it a resume builder, really? Anyway, so he's criticizing Tom Cotton because Tom wants the IRS to investigate the Southern Poverty Law Center. Quote, I knew Tom Cotton had gone to Washington and lost his way. Now I'm thinking he might have lost his mind too. That's according to a Mahoney tweet on April the 2nd. So I started looking into this. The Southern Poverty Law Center, they use their tax-exempt status in a way that is totally 100% political. They put Chris Ann Hall. I want you to understand this. Will you show this Facebook post? Back in 2017, the Southern Poverty Law Center is supposed to come out with a list of groups, okay? A list of groups that are hate groups, right? And they have some on there that are legit, but they have others that are just conservative organizations. The Southern Poverty Law Center, Chris Ann Hall, who, by the way, she's coming back to Arkansas in October, was listed on their hate group list. And this is just a really nice woman who goes around teaching the originalist interpretation of the Constitution. That's all she does. And she winds up on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate group list. It's incredible. Anyway, that was in 2017. I think she was on it for 3 years in a row. I looked today and I couldn't find her. So maybe she was taken off of the list. I'm not sure. But what a joke, right? What a joke. Anyway. I mean, who else are they going to get to run against Tom Cotton? I don't know. I mean, they obviously need a filler, and anyway, I would just feel if you were a Democrat in Arkansas being asked to challenge some of these Republicans, wouldn't you just feel kind of depressed about it at this point? I mean, like, well, wouldn't that just be a waste of my time? Why would I want to do that when I'm not going to win? Like, there's no chance I'm going to win. Anyway, it's just a thought. I want to remind everybody, hey, listen to this. We talked to you about this on the first hour. This is a big deal. The Attorney General, William Barr, has now released an opinion blocking the catch and release program at the border. They have 90 days, and I would even say Congress really now has 90 days to do something about this, because he's directed officials to delay the implementation. But the text of the relevant act provides that if an alien is expedited, proceedings establishes a credible fear, he shall be detained for further consideration of the application for asylum. I order that unless DHS paroles the respondent under the appropriate section of the act, he must be detained until his removal proceedings conclude, meaning there's not going to be any more catch and release, according to the Attorney General. That means that if Congress doesn't do something about this to actually secure the border, we're going to be talking about massive amounts of tent cities at the border. If you effectively end catch and release, they're going to use this 90-day period. They've got a detention center there that can only hold like 50,000 people. We got way more than that coming over the border every year. And they say the exact right thing. I want to remind you what happens. You have these coyotes that tell them the exact right things. You have immigration attorneys waiting for them. They know the exact phrase to say to get their day in court. Then they never show up for their day. Then you have some of these corporate people that are finding these illegals jobs. They want the job so they can finish paying off the coyote that they owe that got them across the border in the first place. It's a really messed up system right now. Good job, Attorney General William Barr, for taking the first step and really putting more of a spotlight on the crisis that is our southern border.